What I'm about to tell you is really important. When today's powerful event is over, Robert is going to join me for a question and answer session. So get your questions ready. And as an added bonus, if you stay with us till the end, you'll be provided with some proven resources to help you immediately start improving your financial future. So make sure you stay until the very end to get these free cash flow boosting tools. Plus, after the Q&A, stay tuned for a special bonus segment that you don't want to miss. Now, I encourage you to shut your door, tell everybody you're busy. I also suggest that you grab a notepad to take notes. Be sure to write down all action items that apply to your personal plan to achieve financial freedom, or any questions that you might have for Robert to help you escape the rat race once and for all. All right, without any further delay, let's get to the reason why you're here and jump right in. All right, I want to welcome everybody to what I know is going to be an amazing discussion. You know, we've been hearing from our audience so often that they're losing sleep over the financial situation currently, and as many as 75% are going to be relying on the government for retirement. So I know a lot of them are trying to figure out how to get ahead during this inflation, looking for wealth creation opportunities, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm excited to be joined by the co-founder of the Rich Dad Company, Kim Kiyosaki, as well as world-renowned experts, Dr. Naomi Prins and Andy Tanner. And I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. Naomi, I'll let you go ahead and start.
All right, thanks, Chris. Kim, it's so amazing to be on here with all of you and speaking to the Rich Dad community, because sharing information and education and ideas is what you're all about, and that's what we should always strive for. So thank you. I am a lot of things, but formerly a Wall Street executive. I say that because I was a managing director of Goldman Sachs. I was a senior managing director of Bear Stearns in London. I worked at Chase Manhattan Bank. I worked at Lehman Brothers. And through that period, I got a chance to be in the front row. And I mean the front row all over the world in terms of how Wall Street generates its profits and its money. And that is often at the expense of the average person. I mean, people are watching here right now. And I left Wall Street in order to specifically unveil what's going on, but also to share that information and to help educate people as to what's going on the inside, so that they can be better prepared to manage their own wealth, knowing what the big guns are doing as well. Sometimes taking their playbook and sometimes working in areas in opposition, but in a way to sort of maximize knowledge and wealth.
And Naomi, you've gotten some fabulous books and great resources. So could you just name a couple of them?
Yeah, so my last book that just came out the end of last year, currently I'm working on the new forward, but it is a book called Permanent Distortion: How the Financial Markets Abandoned the Real Economy Forever. I do mean forever. And that really does get at the heart of all the negative things the Fed has done, what inflation is doing to people, what people can do about it for themselves. Also, I wrote a book before that called Collusion: How Central Bankers Rigged the World. And they did, and they still do.
That's a great point. Andy, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. My name is Andy Tanner, and over the past 25, 30 years or so, I've just been a student of investing. One of the great privileges of my life is the time I spend with my good friend Kim Kiyosaki and the Rich Dad organization. I was a Rich Dad advisor, a volunteer on that team for about 14 years. I can't believe it's been that long. I know that people turn in looking for answers and looking for what type of education they need. So that's what I do every day. I loved Naomi's books. She's way smart. So I'm excited to learn. I'm excited to learn from Kim and Naomi as well, but that's me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're excited to hear from all of you. And that just gives.
I'm just going to jump in. I just want to add one of the things that why Andy's work and our work was so aligned is, you know, he's in the stock market and paper assets, but he teaches how to get cash flow, our two favorite words, cash flow from the stock market.
That's right.
And it's brilliant. So, and you're a fabulous teacher. Both of you are fabulous teachers.
And that gives our audience just a little bit of a taste of what they can expect. So let's jump right in. Naomi, I want to start with you. How would you describe this current market that we're in right now? and how's it impacting our middle class?
Yeah, this is it's a challenging market period. There's no doubt. And I think the middle class recognize it. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is that the Federal Reserve, our central bank, the sort of mother bank to the big private banks, went on crazy steroids in terms of just creating money since the financial crisis of 2008, doubled down during the pandemic of 2020. And we were told that this money was going, to help the real economy, to help real people. Everybody out there does not feel helped by the fact that over $9 trillion of money was created out of thin air since 2008 by the Federal Reserve and more. But what the Fed did, because inflation was rising last year, was went on its most crazy span of rate hikes. And that hurts real people more than anybody else. They did it to supposedly combat inflation. The Fed does not, big myth, the Fed does not have the ability to control inflation. The Fed cannot produce oil. It cannot create food. It cannot reduce rents. There is a myth that the Fed actually has the ability to control inflation. But what it did do, which hurt real people, and there's a golden lining here. What it did do is it created a situation where we're borrowing for real people, and having debt for real people has become significantly more expensive. Wall Street doesn't care. Wall Street's going to make money on fees on all of this, one side or the other. Rates down, rates up, doesn't matter. But for real people, there's a real pinch in their pocketbooks. And that's why more than ever, there's a lot of anxiety out there. There's a lot of fear out there. And this is actually the time to sort of move into that fear, because this is actually the time to get involved in hard assets, to get involved with real estate, and to avoid the fear that real estate, for example, prices might go down and I got to wait until there's a bottom and I can't afford loans, mortgages right now because they're too expensive, and kind of lean into that. Because ultimately where the Fed is right now is in a tight spot, and they will put a pause on rate hikes, I believe, next month. And they will cut rates, I believe, next year. And in the meantime, anybody who gets into real estate now, anyone who borrows now, who takes that leap right now, even though it looks scary, is going to have the opportunity to reduce the cost of that debt, but get in ahead of all the other people that are afraid to get in right now. So it's really a volatile situation out there, but it's also an extremely good opportunity from the standpoint of what Fed has done and where we're at economically.
So Naomi, do you think the Fed is going to no longer raise rates this year and then start cutting, or are they going to start cutting this year?
But somewhere within the next 7 weeks, we will get to a situation where the Fed pauses rates. I don't believe they're going to cut rates until next year. And there's two reasons for that. One is they want to save face. The Fed is incredibly bad at its job. Okay, two main examples of how the Fed is bad at its job just this year, is that it completely missed the fact that half a dozen retail banks in this country, mid-tier retail banks, have either failed or are about to fail. And another half dozen of them are going to be next. And it was the Fed's job to be watching these banks and to notice signs of what was going on. But the second reason they're incompetent is because what they did not realize is that these banks and other banks like them that lend and work with millions and millions of people throughout the country were sitting on treasury bonds. They did put aside, many of them, money in case depositors wanted their money and wanted to take their money out. The problem was when the Fed raised rates so quickly and so aggressively, again, to save face, to pretend they were able to do anything about inflation because they missed the boat on it for so long before that, it made those treasury bonds those banks held less valuable, which meant that when they had to cash them out, they had less money. And that became a bigger and bigger snowballing of a problem. And that is why many of our banks still face potential bankruptcies even today. I don't believe they're ultimately going to cut rates, therefore, until 2024. I would say the end of the first quarter of 2024, thereabouts. And that's because ultimately this drag that they have created on the economy, on credit, on good debt, is going to come to fruition, and they will have to provide liquidity by more than just printing money. They will cut rates.
A lot of factors there, and I actually want to get everyone's feeling on this next question, because Naomi, you hit on something. I'm amazed at how many people that I know that still are relying on their 401k, still relying on their investments in the stock market. Kim, let's start with you. Why is this the time to really get educated and look for these other wealth building opportunities?
Well, there's going to be a lot of opportunity, and I'll give you one quick story, Chris. I just read about this, and this is in Phoenix, where I live. Real estate prices, for example, have just been going up, up, up. Rents have been going through the roof. So because these investors were not educated, so what happened is at the start of the year, we had like this perfect triangle of Super Bowl, we had the Phoenix Open, we had spring training. So all these amateurs who were not educated, they came into the market and they bought all these short-term rentals, and they thought they were going to make a killing. And they bought thousands and thousands of them. And what happened is that there was too many, supply was way higher than demand. And so they didn't make the money. And because they're not educated, now they have these properties and they don't know how to manage long-term rentals. So they're selling. There's going to be a glut of properties that are about to come on the market because these uneducated investors, I wouldn't even call them investors, they were just looking for an opportunity that they didn't know what they were doing. Now there's going to be opportunity because there's going to be a flood of inventory coming on the market. So one reason, there's a perfect example of, in Phoenix, you're going to have all this property coming on. If you don't know what to do, you're going to miss the opportunity. If you know what to do with the property, you can take advantage of it. So that's just one sector. I mean, you got business, you got paper, you got commodities. That's just one sector. But right now, the world is, we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, which is a little scary. But because we don't know what the next rule is going to be that's coming down. We don't know what the supply chain is going to do, and supply and demand chain. But yeah, the best thing right now you can do is get educated and start looking for these opportunities.
That's one thing we can all agree on. We hear it all the time. Nobody knows what's around the corner, but we can always go back to, you and Robert have been saying this for years, you make your money in a downturn. That's why we can be optimistic. That's why our viewers can be optimistic. Now we have a special private lesson with Robert Kiyosaki, and trust me, you don't want to miss this.
So it's really going to be a good time, because in crashes is when you get rich. So what happened in 2008, Kenny and I waited 2 years. By 2008, real estate prices were at all-time lows, and they kept dropping the interest rates. So what happened in 2008, Kenny and Kim and I borrowed $300 million. $300 million. And we bought the best real estate in the world. And that's how we got really rich after the crash. And we're planning on the same thing. Because it's a very, very spooky time. I'm worried about other people. So that's kind of what I write about. And another thing too is I'm not stopping investing. I'm just saying I have to get smarter and more careful. And I want the same for you. Those are the challenges we see coming up. So when people say, how do you get started? Well, I don't think most of you can borrow $300 million. And neither could I at one time. So the first amount I ever borrowed, my first real estate property, again, was a crash. It was in Hawaii, 1974. The market had crashed in Hawaii. And I bought a 1-bedroom, 1-bath condo on a credit card. So I had nothing down into the property, and I made $25. It was called an infinite return because it was 100% debt producing cash. It's called an infinite return. And those days are coming back again. But I started with nothing. But what increased, this is since 74, I don't know how many years that is now, but what's increased is my knowledge, my education, my practice. I made a lot of, Kim and I made a lot of mistakes, but anytime we make a mistake, we get smarter. So in 2008, we're smart enough to go to our bankers who knew us. We showed them our financial statements, which is all Rich Dad Poor Dad is about and the cash flow game is about. We showed them our financials, and the bankers gave us $300 million. Whereas in 1974, they gave me zero. But what increases is your knowledge, but it's up to you to determine your education. So what happens is with the right financial education, I'll borrow my ass off, And I have to keep borrowing because if I stop borrowing, I have to pay taxes. So it's really opposite of what guys, Dave Ramsey's a friend of mine. He says live debt free. And most people should live debt free because they have no financial education. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I don't live debt free. I mean, right now I'm pushing nearly $1 billion in debt, but it's debt that makes me richer, debt that acquires assets. And because I have so much debt and I have so much real estate, I pay no taxes. Where the average person gets a job, pays taxes, tries to save money, they try and buy a house and they put their money in a 401k. God almighty, I'll pray for you tonight. But that's the best thing you should do if you have no financial education. Listen to Dave Ramsey, live debt free, or Susie Orman, cut up your credit cards. Well, I don't know about you, but it's tough to live without credit cards. But if you can't control your spending, cut up your credit cards. So all I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, is what you do from tomorrow on will be determined by what you study, what you learn today. So again, I'm on it because I want you to make it. Stay tuned to the announcement coming up on Rich Dad's World and find out what we have to offer, plus guidance and coaching, not to give you answers, but to have you be able to determine good investments from bad investments. Because the world is full of investments. Not all are good or bad, but you have to know the difference. So I started years and years ago, and my intelligence, my experience, I made a lot of mistakes. I've met a lot of good people, a lot of bad people, but that's life. So that's why your education and who your teachers are crucial.
We're at a very interesting point in history right now. We're in a really interesting time where a lot of stuff is going on. And right now, dependence on government and dependence on an employer or dependence on a 401k, I think it's more risky than it's ever been. On the other side, the opportunities right now are massive to be able to acquire assets. So a couple of comments on what Naomi had to say. I agree with her in that the Fed, they're not like driving a car where when you turn the steering wheel, you see where the car goes. They have a very blunt instrument where they use their tools such as rate hike or printing money. Then they've got to wait a while to see what happens. Well, they have printed so much money, as Naomi said, about $9 trillion. And this was not transitory inflation. So with the rate hikes, what happens is they have a delayed reaction as well. And I'd like to hear Naomi's thought on this. Is the labor market is what I've got my eye on. Is when will these rate hikes, Disney just laid off a lot of people. The policies they have now that they're not sustainable because it's going to start hurting the labor market. When this stuff happens and asset prices change, and when they have to go back to printing money, this creates incredible opportunities for investors who know how to exploit these situations. The other thing I would say, and I'd like to hear what Naomi has to say about this, is real estate is right now one of my favorite asset classes. I'm known as a stock guy, but I think real estate is the best way I know of to take a short position on the dollar. And I know that's a fancy term, but I will just say this. I don't know where Apple's going to go tomorrow. I don't know where the S&P 500 is going to go tomorrow. But here's what I believe. Because the Fed is connected to our fiscal policy, but because we are borrowing so much, we have absolutely no choice in the future to print more.
Right.
And I believe that the value of the dollar long-term of any prediction I can make, if you can just grasp one thing, if you're a listener, more than any prediction I can make about Apple or the S&P or the Russell 2000, I believe that over the next couple of decades, the value of the US dollar will fall and continue to fall because of the fiscal policy and the marriage with the monetary policy. So the reason, very simply, that the time to learn about real estate is right now, it is the best prediction I can make that if I had to have one crystal ball and say, Andy, what is one thing you think is going to happen? I believe over the next decade or so, the dollar will fall. And that is the reason why learning about real estate right now is huge, because real estate, unlike stocks, allows me to use debt to acquire it. And not to put too confusing a point on it, but a person needs to learn it's really not about the real estate. It's about the devaluation of the dollar. And I think real estate is the best way, bar none, to short the dollar. So I'd like to hear Naomi's comments on the inextricable relationship between the fiscal policy forces the monetary policy to print. They'll have to pause these rate hikes because they got to pay for all this debt by printing money.
I could not agree more, right? Because the Fed has already shown us and other central banks by association that it can print money when it needs to and when it decides it needs to. It means ultimately that the dollar will be less valuable. And it means that ultimately real estate here will again be bought by more and more foreign investors looking for other ways to play the devaluation of the dollar, of US debt, and still make money. And we have this amazing opportunity. To Kim's question again, if we know or believe or can predict, and I feel very strongly about this, that the Fed's going to ultimately reduce rates and in the process print more money over the next, say, 6 to 9 months. Well, this is the exact time to get educated and to get in on those opportunities, because once that begins to happen, and once the rest of the world sees it, the opportunity in buying that and using that debt to buy those real estate assets, which will then go up in value and plus allow you along the way to have a security in terms of how much rent you might charge for them, or how much mortgage you might need to pay, knowing it's going to go down. It is going to go down. We are at the top of the mortgage levels for the near future. You educate yourself yesterday. You get involved in these opportunities as soon as you can, and then you will be positioned as all of this goes down. And right before the Fed actually does cut rates, and along while they're printing money through that period, and you are there to take advantage of all of that upside at that moment.
And Naomi, I just want to add that, we don't know what's coming, and we keep saying, we don't know what's coming around the bend. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So a lot of people, they are in such fear that they're paralyzed. And yeah. I know, right? And so they're not doing anything. It's like, oh, we don't know. I'm not going to invest in real estate. I'm not going to invest in this. I'm not going to start a business because we don't know what's coming. You got to start.
You got to start.
To your point, Naomi, you got to start with the education. You've got to start, because real estate's going to be around, businesses are going to be around. So if you have that mindset of, oh my God, the world is coming to an end, I'm not going to do anything, you're going to be lost. You're going to lose big time.
Okay, I got to jump in here because I've got like 25 things based on what you guys are saying. What I love about the conversation is there's a little bit of sense of urgency here that I hear in your voices, and I think it's totally justified because our viewers, although we're going to have folks from all different, levels of investing, some that are just getting started, people are confused right now. And I talk to people often that are maybe sold a couple of years ago when they've been renting, waiting to jump back in, and they're getting anxious. A lot of people, starting to think, well, maybe this is the new reality. These are where prices are. People don't realize that we're already starting to see things decline. U.S. home sales falling by 23%. Biggest fall since 2012. I just saw something that more realtors have left and quit than back in 2008. So we're seeing this happen. We're seeing the writing on the wall. But Kim, I want to go to you because you kind of mentioned the idea of getting started. And I know that there's a lot of folks that are watching that maybe be their first time investing in real estate. When you got started, I've heard you tell the story about the first home you bought. Talk about the fear that you overcame and what that looked like when you did it. And I know rates weren't great at that time.
No, right. And that's an interesting point too. And the first thing we always say is start small. Start small. If you're going to part with money and it's a first time deal, whatever the investment is, start small, because you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And I made a lot of mistakes. But yes, that first house, I didn't know anything about, like Andy, I didn't know anything about real estate investing. Robert taught me a little bit about what his rich dad taught him about real estate. And he's like, okay, see what you can find. I'm like, what? I don't know. I don't know the market. All I've known is how to buy a personal residence. That's all I've known. Matter of fact, the real estate agent I used was not an investment broker. He was a personal residence broker. So he wasn't teaching me anything either. But what happened is I had to part with $5,000 down payment, of which I did not have. The house was $45,000, little 2-bedroom, 1 bath. And I had to part with $5,000. At that point, our business was just starting, was just taking off. So I was scared to death of losing $5,000. I knew that this first house, everything panned out, everything checked, all the due diligence, everything checked. I was shaking, literally shaking when I was signing the paperwork. If I didn't do that deal, I was never going to move forward in not just in investing, but in life. If I let that fear hold me back, then forget it. Because really the key to growth and the key to learning, the key to personal development is facing that fear, but getting through the fear. And when you get through that fear and you break through that fear, wow, that's where real learning happens. That's where real growth happens. That's where the ahas come from. And because of that little 2-bedroom, 1 bath house, that was my start of my education. I learned not everything, but I learned a lot about real estate. I learned a lot about rental properties. I learned a lot about the markets. I learned a lot about tenants because I had this little property. So I love to encourage people to get in the game, start small, buy your first piece, whether it's yourself or you're doing it with other people, because then you have a platform to learn from. That the investment becomes your education. So the fear is huge. And if you let fear stop you, then I don't even know how to say this to encourage people to step up to the fear. If you don't understand fear, if you're not facing fear on a regular basis, as there was a famous quote, if you're not facing fear on a regular basis, then you don't understand the secret of life.
But the urgency is so important. You know, people are relying on things like 401ks. There's $11 trillion, Chris, in the United States in defined contribution programs, right? 11 trillion. Vanguard and Fidelity are the 2 largest. Vanguard's got almost 2 trillion of that. So that's pretty good sampling. The median for people 55 to 65 in that base and retirement time, the median balance is $89,716. And that works out to about $300 a month at a 4% rule. People can't live on $300 a month. So the reason I feel so much urgency in the idea of getting a mentor, getting educated, reading Naomi's books, learning about collusion is everyone feels like we're at an important time in history. And on one side, it looks really, really dark. On the other side, the brightness of the future is just, I got to wear shades. I will say this, the best year I ever had financially in my life, ever, like not even close, was COVID year, 2020. It was incredible. You're getting ExxonMobil in the 30s. You know, Ford's $4 a share. I mean, the bargains are insane. And I see now I look where the real estate market is. You get a cash flowing deal right now, rates are just going to get better, in my opinion. You hop in and learn this right now, it's just going to get better, in my opinion. I think rents are going to get higher. If you can get something fixed that you can just ratchet down and refinance, fix. You know, if a person everyone tries to buy one house. And if a person like Kim said, you know, if you just start doing one more and let the renters, you know, pay off your mortgage, it changes one changes your financial situation totally if there's inflation. And you may not get the connective tissue. You know, Naomi and I we like to go really deep into this stuff, you know, and it's a big concept for people. But if you can just understand that the federal government has to print money and the value of that money is going to go down, the square footage of your house won't change.
That's right.
The number of bedrooms won't change. The debt, if you're fixed, won't change. And the rents and the value can only go higher if we have inflation. And if you can start to read Naomi's books and read Kim's books and get a mentor and start there with that idea of, okay, the powers that be, my money is not going to be worth much. My assets are going to be worth a lot. I want to learn how to start doing this now. And it's, if you just get one more house, life-changing.
Yep. And one final comment, and I know we got to go back to you, Chris, but one final comment, because I can hear people saying, oh, Naomi said the interest rates are going down, so I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till the interest rates go down. Okay. So yeah, and you guys are shaking your head no, right? But that first property, Chris, that I bought, was the interest rate was at like 9 or 10%. But it doesn't matter, because if you run your numbers and if you do your income, less your expenses, less your debt, and you can get a positive cash flow, go for it. And to Naomi's point, then when the rates do come down, you can refinance. When the money is worth less, you're gonna be making more. Your rents are gonna go up. So yeah, I just get concerned that people are gonna go, I'm just gonna wait till the rates. That's stupid. I'm sorry, that's just stupid. Yeah.
Well, that's exactly the question I was going to, because I remember that you were at 9 or 10% when you bought that first property. So I want our viewers to be able to understand, listen, if the property's cash flowing, like you said, it only gets better. You're only going to improve your situation.
Yeah, my cash flow was a whopping $25 a month. But the education I got, and then of course the rents go up, but the education I got was priceless. And a positive cash flow, I can do, as long as the cash flows positively, I'll do as many as I can.
Andy, I want to ask you though, because you have a unique perspective, being, heavily leveraged in both areas, but why is leveraging debt the key to beating inflation?
Well, this is a complex conversation for sure. I'm going to make it as simple as I possibly can. But when you are borrowing money, essentially when, Warren Buffett has said this many times, that real estate might be the best way to short the dollar. So when people think about buying real estate, thinking about the house or the apartment building or the duplex that they're buying, and they often don't think about the idea that they're borrowing money when it's really, really valuable. And they're trading it for an asset, and then they're returning the money when it's not valuable at all. And so, if you're looking at an extreme example like Zimbabwe, where they have, $1 trillion bills blowing in the street, just imagine if you had debt that you could pay off with one of those $1 trillion bills blowing in the street. It basically erases your debt. If you look at a financial statement, there's two ways to increase your net worth. You buy things that are increasing in value, or you borrow things that are decreasing in value. That's a tough one to wrap your head around. Think about that. Either way, if my asset column grows, my net worth grows. If my liability column shrinks, my net worth grows. And so the reason I get excited for people is buying things takes money. Borrowing things doesn't take money. And I'll circle back to what I said. I can't tell you where the S&P is going to be at the end of the year. I have no idea. I really don't. But I will tell you, if there's one thing I had to predict, it would be the future of the US dollar. It loses value. And that little crystal ball right there, because we're so far down the road in these policies, that people should learn that fact, that I can borrow money while it still has some value, and I get to pay that back with dollars that are worth less. And if you say those two words faster and faster, worth less, you get the idea that, my gosh, the concept is simple. If the dollars are worth less, then they have to give me more of them for rent. But if my payment is fixed when I borrowed it, it does nothing but increase cash flow. And
I think, Andy, to your point, most people have to change their mindset to that word debt.
Yes.
Because debt is a 4-letter word to most people, and they don't understand what you're saying is priceless. And if they could get one thing out of this is priceless. What you're saying is that debt, if you spend it the right way, if you're using it to buy the right things, not debt to buy your vacation house or debt to buy your boat or debt to buy, your latest motorcycle, that's bad debt. That's really bad debt, because that debt has to come out of your personal pocket. You have to make more money and pay more taxes to pay off that debt. But you're talking about debt that your asset pays for. You don't pay for it. Your asset pays for it. It's a huge concept for people, I think, to get their mind around. And if you can get the mind around that there is such a thing as good debt that can make you wealthy, that's huge.
Well, and Naomi, I want to ask because you know, a lot of folks are wondering, you know, what's it going to look like? Robert, of course, has been talking about a downturn for some time, and a lot of people want to know, when's it going to happen? What's it going to look like? Is it going to be just the housing market? What are some things that people can look for as indicators to confirm that this is really the time to be prepared?
Well, I think that what we are seeing right now, we are seeing headlines about real estate prices, you know, starting to come down, and rather than be afraid that they'll come down further, again, this presents an opportunity to get in there while everybody else is concerned. We are seeing that wages are starting to dip down. So this whole fight of the Fed to supposedly cut inflation by cutting people's ability to make money at their jobs, which is just patently ridiculous anyway, is going to somehow make the cost of gas cheaper, which again is patently illogical. We can see signs of that happening. We can see US growth, and it's a wonky kind of economic thing, but the reality is almost every stat now that's going to be coming out on economic growth is going to come out lower. All of this, whether people are specifically looking at each individual thing or not, there is a feeling as well that relates to these numbers that things aren't quite that good, right? And what I'll say also in terms of setting up and getting educated right now and getting into those hard real estate assets right now as quickly as possible is to throw in another wrench here, which is we're getting into an election year next year. And by definition, during election years, like almost less than nothing, as opposed to just nothing goes on through Washington, right? Because everybody's kind of back and forth on the election cycle and hoping people won't notice how anxious they might feel economically. And the whole point of all of, I think what we're talking here, just to step back and think of it in a different way, is that what we're talking about is getting educated and investing in assets so that when there are any of these deteriorating factors in the economy, we can feel, people watching here can feel like you are actually in more control of it than you would otherwise be. And having control over your own financial destiny is just so much more valuable than believing or trusting or fill in the blank that the government's going to be able to, you know, sort of fix or maintain growth in our economy by the policies that they're enacting, or certainly the policies that the Fed has consistently been responsible for.
And that's a great point, Naomi, because when COVID started and like halfway through COVID, we had so many people comment to us saying, thank you for your information, but we got information, yes, but what they did is they took action. And They said, because of it, and we followed the principles and we followed the philosophy and we took action because of all of this during COVID, we are fine. We are secure. We don't worry. We're fine. But the key was they took what they learned and they put it into practice and they made it happen. Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of people, they read all the books or they'll attend all the seminars, but if they don't take that action and take that first step, nothing's going to change in your life.
That's right. And you can't ultimately get cash flow from the book you read, right? I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, this is only workable if you get educated immediately and then take action ASAP.
Obviously, I've heard you all say it. I've heard other successful investors say it. Their biggest regret is they didn't get started sooner. Kim, let me start with you. How does that apply to our viewers today?
The only time to start is today. I know people that started in their 60s. I know somebody started in their 70s and they're fine. They're financially secure today. So people say, oh, I'm too old, or the opposite. Oh, I've got lots of time. I'm young. I got lots of time. That to me is actually more dangerous. I'm young. I have lots of time. And they say that until they're in their 50s and 60s. So the best time to start is right now. Right now, I would, start reading the books, start attending the courses, finding mentors, coaches, going to Rich Dad World, is a great way to get started. You'll also in Rich Dad World, what I like to is you're going to also meet like-minded people, because one of the things that's so crucial, when I started in real estate, it was just me and Robert. I didn't have a network of people supporting me. I didn't have like-minded people, or I had just the opposite. I had people telling me why I shouldn't do it. It's so important to surround yourself with people that are going to support your dreams and support your efforts and support your goals. And especially those who have been there, done it. I think people who are successful in real estate, in business, and whatever they do, if somebody comes to them and says, I would like to learn something from you, can I just take you out to lunch? They want people to succeed. They want to help younger people, and they want to help people who want to learn. So I just think right now, this is the time. This is their time.
Yeah, and this really is that important when you think about it. Kim, you brought something up, and I thought if for no other reason, people should be plugged into the Rich Dad World. They should be involved in these conversations because there is so much negativity out there in the world.
Yeah.
Why in the world would you listen to that? Listen to people that are going somewhere. Listen to people that are saying, hey, yeah, this is around the corner. That looks so good, but I got great news for you. There's an opportunity in it. This is the conversation you want to be involved in. Is that right?
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. I made a decision many years ago, Chris, to get the negative people out of my life. But I made a decision because we all have our own negativity, and we all have our own doubts, and we all have our own fears. So it's really important for people to be around positive people. And it's so much more rewarding, and it's so much just easier and pleasant. And there's nothing worse than having negative people around you who are going to tell you why you can't do something. I tell myself that all the time. I don't need other people telling me that.
That was one of the greatest things I got out of Rich Dad Poor Dad. I always tell people all the time is don't ever let anybody tell you can't do something.
Yep.
Figure out how to do it and go do it.
Yep. And I've said this before. There was a study done on centenarians, people that live to be over 100. And they said, what are the common denominators? One of the common denominators was they were optimistic. And that applies to business. That applies to investing. The most successful people I know are optimistic, not pessimistic. Now, you've got to have a reality. It can't be la-di-da optimistic and no real world reality. There's got to be a balance, but the optimism typically wins over the pessimism.
It's been such a great discussion, so much great information.
I would just say there is no better time than now. So in that respect, I just want to underscore what Kim's saying and what Andy's saying. It's right here. It's right now. It's this moment to basically be in the good camp of that.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much. Kim, Naomi, Andy, wealth of information. We have to do this again soon. So thank you for being here. I know our viewers enjoyed it. I want to encourage our viewers to stick around. We're going to tell you more about how you can continue your financial education from the Rich Dad World. Wow, that was some incredible information you might not know what to do with, like how to turn this information into an opportunity to start building your fortune. That's okay. Robert has always made the most money after a crisis, and his secret to success has always been knowledge. There's no better time than right now to evaluate your options for increasing your knowledge and taking advantage of the opportunities around you. We've all heard Robert's rags to riches story about how he listened to his rich dad and invested in real estate to make his fortune. Well, Robert didn't just immediately invest in real estate when he heard this. He sought more information and knowledge first from people who were already successful real estate investors. And he didn't risk everything he had to get started, and neither should you. Now let's talk about how you can turn that information into a plan of action to accomplish your personal financial goals. Now, as promised, Robert has agreed to join me for this upcoming segment to answer your questions and help you get started. While Robert takes a minute to get settled in before answering questions, he asked me to share with you the details about his latest step-by-step how-to training program. While he gets ready, let me say, I hope you're all feeling motivated to get out of the rat race once and for all and take your next steps right away. Robert and I both have complete confidence in your ability to do this because you know what? Most people don't seek out financial education like you're doing right now. Only the most successful people do that. And by showing up here today to seek out a better life, You've shown you're ready to do whatever it takes to be successful. What we're about to share with you is so exclusive, it's limited to only the first 100 people who respond during the airing of this event. Listen, Robert is so passionate about elevating the financial well-being of humanity. He's giving away 6 free live and interactive coaching sessions with his personally trained coaches, but only to the first 100 of you who want to get started today. This is an unadvertised special bonus from Robert valued at $2,000. You may never see this free coaching offer ever again. This opportunity is designed to help you finally achieve financial independence and begin immediately increasing your monthly cash flow. Hopefully, after today's session, you're going to realize how simple success can be if you just follow the path of those who have already done what you're trying to do. This is why Robert is giving away 6 free live and interactive coaching sessions today. Learn what they did to succeed and repeat what they did. It's the easiest and fastest way to achieve results. Okay, and remember, as promised, Robert's going to stick around and answer your questions and share his advice to help you take your next steps. Plus, stay tuned for a special bonus segment. You've already seen how simple it is if you just follow the path of those who've already done what you're trying to do. So you can take what you've learned today and end up miles ahead of what most people achieve financially in their lifetime. And I certainly hope you do that. I took action myself more than 20 years ago with no experience and no blueprint. I had only read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but I knew it was possible. You don't need to waste your time, energy, and hard-earned money the way that I did. You can virtually eliminate your risks and finally get out of the rat race in a fraction of the time it took me. 20 years ago, I wish I had what Robert and his team are offering you today, an exclusive invitation to secure your financial freedom by implementing Robert's real estate cash flow blueprint. This first of its kind online training system will walk you through the exact steps to acquire at least one cash flow producing property in the next year, and then repeat the process again and again. So if you're serious about finally getting out of the rat race, if you want a proven step-by-step system to achieve financial freedom faster than you ever thought possible, if you want to guarantee yourself a raise of at least $6,000 every single year, and if you want to take all of the risky guesswork out of increasing your cash flow, then the Real Estate Cash Flow Blueprint is specifically for you. In order to fulfill Robert's mission to elevate the financial well-being of humanity, he worked with his team to develop an innovative, step-by-step system that lays out exactly what to do to achieve financial independence with real estate. It's literally a blueprint for building a bridge to financial freedom the Rich Dad way. After you've gone through this step-by-step system, you'll know exactly how to buy your first or your next investment property with positive cash flow, with little or none of your own money guaranteed. The teaching and training material you'll have access to in the Real Estate Cash Flow Blueprint has already made such a massive difference in so many people's lives. That's because it's the same material Robert and his experts have used for years. They've used it to help people achieve financial freedom the Rich Dad way. Take Lisa, for example. She started like I did. She picked up the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad and had her eyes opened. She had to really work to get her husband on board at first because this was such a big change for them. But they knew they had to do something different because they had such big expenses and no true assets. But now their passive income has surpassed their expenses. Here's what Lisa had to say. We're proud to say we reached our goal of acquiring passive income over expenses in our own personal lives. This was no easy task since we had lots of expenses and no true assets. However, with the knowledge that the Rich Dad team offers, which is massive, a little patience, persistence, and minding our business, we were able to achieve this in a few short years. Lisa R., Tennessee. Wow, I still can't help but get excited when I hear results like that. And the Real Estate Cash Flow Blueprint is going to make them attainable for you too. This system comes to you with 7 comprehensive sessions you can access anytime, where Robert's personally trained real estate experts walk you through every profit-making strategy you need to know, They'll show you step by step how to achieve real wealth with real estate. Even if you have little or no money, no experience, and you have a full-time job, let me quickly show you what you're going to learn in each module. In module number 1, Think Like the Rich, you'll learn how to leverage not only your own money, but more importantly, other people's money to unlock true wealth. You'll start to think like the rich think and seize opportunities that are right in your backyard, just like the rich do. In module number 2, Taking Control of Your Cash Flow, you'll learn how simple it is to finally take back control of your cash flow and establish your plan, be secure, and live life on your terms. Module number 3 is where you're going to learn how you can do this no matter what your schedule is, whether you have a demanding full-time job or you're an extremely busy parent. It's called Making Time for Success. And by the end, you'll be leveraging your personal time like the rich manage theirs, so you can get the highest returns on the time you do have available. In module number 4, Identifying Your Target Market, we'll give you the tips, tricks, and secrets to locate properties with the most profit potential. So you're not going to have to worry about where to look or how to know if a property has great potential or not. We're going to show you exactly what to look for and what to avoid. Of course, finding the right market and properties is only half the equation. That's why in module number 5, Finding Properties That Cash Flow, we'll show you how to find motivated sellers and maximize your cash flow, so you don't have to waste your time chasing unprofitable deals. After doing this over and over again all over the world, we know the specific traits to look for in a seller in order to get unbelievable value out of your deal. So this really gives you an unfair advantage in every potential deal you find. In module number 6, Showing You the Money, you'll learn how you can acquire almost any deal using creative financing techniques to purchase properties with little or no down payment. And ultimately, in module number 7, Doing Your First Deal, you're going to see step-by-step how to establish connections and negotiate your deals for maximum cash flow. As you watch these sessions, Robert's experts will walk you through everything you need to quickly start acquiring cash flow producing properties. You're also going to have instant access to Robert's step-by-step real estate cash flow curriculum, which includes in-depth exercises and training materials. This will allow you to map out your exact plan of action, so you'll have a completely unique blueprint designed the Rich Dad way for your specific market and your financial situation. So, immediately after you join today, you're going to receive an email from the Rich Dad team giving you instant access to the entire real estate cash flow blueprint system. Inside our secure, members-only site, you'll have immediate access to the highest quality training material we believe exists on the market today. And you'll also get every update that we implement as time goes on. So you can keep coming back to this again and again to help you acquire even more assets. You're getting the exact system Robert's developed to help people acquire their first property without the fear and pitfalls that hold most would-be investors back. Start generating positive cash flow and passive income within just a few months of getting started. Eliminate the easily avoidable but all too common mistakes that cost amateur investors thousands of dollars and endless stress. Becoming financially free so you can stop worrying and live the life you've always wanted. Maybe that means taking that dream vacation with your family. Or maybe it means eventually walking away from your 9-to-5 job so you can have the flexibility to spend more time with the people that matter most while pursuing your passion. It's all put together for you as if Robert's team of experts were standing right beside you, showing you what to do every step of the way. You can do this if you have no experience, even if you don't have a ton of money or good credit, and even if you feel like you don't have the spare time to get started. Let's hear about the experience of a couple of Rich Dad success stories who took control of their financial future, and they've seen some amazing results.
So in the 2019, so after watching your videos in YouTube and I started watching the Rich Dad Poor Dad book. So I started browsing or watching all the videos. By luckily, I got this cash flow blueprint ad in my Facebook or somewhere, and I started enrolling in it. So currently in the year 2023, we have in the January month, we have 11 properties, and 2 are in the pipeline. As far we have reached around $9,000 cash flow with these 11 properties yeah, per month. Yeah, it's the financial freedom is the key thing. So we are totally independent. So I am able to retire at any time. So I'm in the age of 35, so I can retire whenever I want. So that's a great thing. That's a financial freedom. So I got it using this one. I'm thanked for Rich Dad, Robert and Kim for your team. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Danielle Haydock, and we're in Canton, Ohio. We're on the southwest side of Canton, in a house that I just closed on this morning, that I've already resold on land contract. That's the niche that I've been pursuing, one of the things that I was inspired to do after doing the program with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I've been doing the program for a while, and I had a private coach, and I'm still in the coaching program, and doing really great. I wanted to have actual monthly income with my real estate deals, and that's what's current right now. So I'm very happy. Thank you so much to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think your program is awesome.
There's no good reason why you can't be one of Robert's next success stories. If they did it, you can too. Again, the Real Estate Cash Flow Blueprint is going to show you how to achieve these same kinds of results. And because you'll have complete access to the training, you can use it to duplicate those results again and again as you acquire more and more assets. Now, I'm guessing the question on everyone's mind at this point is, how much does the Real Estate Cash Flow Blueprint cost? We believe the financial education this system gives you exceeds virtually any other real estate investing seminar or course you'll find in the market. And there are live in-person investing seminars charging as much as $30,000 for teaching similar kinds of real estate investing techniques. Not only are these seminars expensive, they're inconvenient. You have the added cost of travel, not to mention the time spent away from your family. And then you have to cram into some hotel room and listen to speakers drone on for hours. And if you attend one of these, I hope you're great at taking notes, because you only get to hear the information once. You don't get to come back to it again and again in a convenient online format like Robert's Real Estate Cash Flow Blueprint. That's why Robert created the new Real Estate Cash Flow Blueprint system, so everyone could afford the professional support they need to finally get out of the rat race once and for all. And the great news is, Robert's newest step-by-step system won't cost you anywhere near $30,000. To make sure everyone can afford the training and education necessary to build wealth and finally get out of the rat race, Robert is making his new Real Estate Cash Flow Blueprint system available today only to the first 100 students at an exclusive introductory live stream special price. Now, this offer is only valid during this strategy session, and it's limited to the first 100 students who act right now. To take advantage of the exclusive introductory live stream offer for the first 100 students and get instant access to the entire Real Estate Cash Flow Blueprint, simply click the button that says, "Yes, I want in." You'll enter your information into our secure system, and you'll get an email giving you immediate access. Robert is so passionate about helping students who help themselves. He wants to reward your decision to take action and invest in your financial freedom with 3 incredible bonuses, available exclusively to those attending this strategy session. The first bonus, it's called the Personal Real Estate Riches Profile, and it was created by the world-renowned Myers-Briggs. This profile will show you that it really doesn't matter what kind of personality you have, whether you're introverted, extroverted, feel anxious talking about money, or excited about it. There are proven tactics you can use to feel comfortable and confident in the negotiating process and save yourself thousands of dollars. So that means you're going to get Rich Dad's Real Estate Cash Flow Blueprint.